I call Catherine Delahunty.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker. He mihi nui ki te whare paramata. He mihi nui ki te speakers of Te Reo Rangatira and translators of Te Reo Rangatira. It is indeed a good day. What a happy summer break it was, standing on the infamous Kōpū Bridge talking to carloads of visitors about why they were coming to the Coromandel. Strangely, not one of them said, "I'm hoping to see an industrial-scale gold mine in a forest park," or "Lead me to the gold processing plant. I want to relax to the smell of chemicals and the music of crushing machines." No one even asked to see Jerry Brownlee in nothing but his tramping boots paying final tribute to the Schedule 4 forests and mountains before he, assisted by the Prime Minister's speech yesterday, attempts to rip them open. What is Schedule 4, Mr. Speaker? Most people back where I come from call it the gold mining ban, and they do that because we were part of creating it. In the Hauraki Coromandel, we drew a line in the land at Kōpū Hekawai, and after about 15 years' hard work, we created enough support to see a level of legislative protection. We didn't say it was about protecting icons in exchange for stewardship land, and it was voted in by a national government. We said that gold was a finite resource and that modern gold mining was not sustainable. We still say so. And we don't want the blood money from mining spent on conservation projects as a Faustian bargain. We called then and now for the protection of steep forested catchments and waterways, for Tikapa Moana, the Hauraki Gulf and the fragile coastal fringes. We call for absolute protection for Te Moena Hau or Tamata Kapua, the Maunga, and we included every scrap of land we could, because that's how we create real ecosystems and improve biodiversity. None of it's open for mining in our area. Just come and ask the people. I asked the people what they wanted this summer at public meetings from Opotari and Onimana, which are outside Schedule 4, right up to Coromandel Township, which is surrounded by old gold reefs and stewardship lands. Every public meeting was the same. People wanted to take action to oppose any mining. They were not convinced by boutique mining, which could become mall size. They know what mauled land looks like because we've been through all this before, and the land is only just starting to heal. As for surgical mining, that sounds like some ghastly procedure to disembowel the earth, and if that's the name for what's been happening on the West Coast recently, we're all in trouble. And don't get me started on the new language of offsetting biodiversity, which Landcare and the Ministry of Economic Development are busy trying to trade off. However, there's going to be a consultation phase, which John Key appears to have preempted in his speech yesterday about his expectations to amend Schedule 4. The Green Party looks forward to this, as hundreds of people have indicated that they want to participate, even if the Prime Minister is not going to listen. They have told us that areas from Murihiku southland to North Cape are not open for coal and gold mining by multinationals. John Key said in his address to Parliament yesterday that, quote, "If there is an increase in mining activity, New Zealand's natural environment will also be improved." My co-leader Russell Norman says this sounded like George Orwell, but it also reminds me of George Bush. In the age of the big lie, the Minister of Tourism attempts to sell destruction as protection, and he thinks this country will swallow it. Well, Prime Minister, pigs might fly and the earth might be flat, but we will not surrender our treasured places. Whatunarunara te tangata, toi tū te whenua. People perish, but the land remains. And that's what we have to pass on to our mokopuna, not toxic tailings dumps. More and more people understand that we live in the 21st, not the 19th century. But it seems this government will have to be educated. Look to your vote before you start on this reckless demolition. Did your focus groups tell you mining in forests and national parks was a public relations winner? Or have you missed the essential component of our national identity? Economic uniqueness and survival as a species, the need to protect the integrity of the earth. Mr. Speaker, I also want to comment on the Prime Minister's speech in terms of education, where there were some very interesting signals. So it is it should be, because we have some serious challenges in this area, not the least the government declaring war on many teachers and principals. You won't meet many people who don't believe quality learning is a human right for our children. But how is this achieved? And it must be a matter for dialogue and negotiation. The government has signalled that early childhood education will see some changes to increase the number of poor Māori and Pacific children participating. They don't say how, and the Green Party would love to know how the increase in GST, which does affect childcare fees, will help people pay for early childhood education, especially when the unemployment statistics and the low wages for Māori and Polynesian families are at a record high. Perhaps free quality childcare will now be made available to the poor, but we're not holding our breath. As for primary schools grappling with national standards, we would love to know what the Prime Minister meant by, quote, "we will intervene more aggressively," unquote, in consistently failing schools. Does he mean the kind of aggressive intervention experienced by Aorangi Primary School, which is now closed, without there being any of the conventional hallmarks of educational failure? Great news that the government will provide more professional development for teachers, but to what end? We all agree with the need for quality education, but the across-the-board adoption of standards without a trial or pilot sends a worrying signal that this is an ideologically rigid process in response to a genuine recognition of a problem. We have a deserved reputation for educational success at the primary level, but we also have frightening statistics that Memi Māori and Pacific children leave the education system without sufficient literacy, unless they are Māori and go to kura kaupapa. The issue here reflects a harsh combination of the effects of social inequity and the way our Pākehā designed and managed education system fails to engage children from other cultures, notably tangata whenua. But when a child comes to school without breakfast or any lunch and carries the neighbourhood's social damage on small shoulders, the teachers cannot work some Hollywood miracle. And wherefore are children with a wide range of disabilities? How does a generic standard help them to become confident learners at their own pace? That's why national standards won't help. And it has been tried in the No Right Turn program, which the Bush government attempted in the United States. President Obama is now withdrawing from this approach because he has seen that literacy and numeracy has not improved. The United Kingdom experience is similar. Teachers started teaching to test in order to protect themselves and their schools before the label of loser undermined their resources and their reputations, and children have suffered. It is a sorry business when the education academics have to attack the Minister of Education. Snook, Crooks, Flockton and Hattie sound like a Dickensian law firm, but they are actually quite diverse professors of education, all warning the government that standards without a pilot could create disaster. Professor Ivan Snook also points out that the rationale for introducing national standards ignores the detail in the 2009 ERA report on the use of assessment tools, which showed major improvement across the country. We do need action across the whole community if all children are going to have access to culturally appropriate quality education. But as young teachers have said to me in the last few weeks, the real losers from national standards will be the classes of children who no one will want to teach because they will never meet the standard for reading and maths. Dedicated teachers can lift them from where they have started to much higher standards, but for many it will not be possible to reach the standard set in the current national standard. It will not be an easy journey for those children, unlike the middle-class child whose parents love school themselves, read to them constantly, and who live amongst peace and plenty. It's pretty alarming that the national standards are being rolled out when the government has conceded in its address to Parliament yesterday that, quote, policy will be developed, unquote, this year. Most great educational ideas are based on policy that have already been developed. But this one fails on this count and on many others. The Prime Minister's speech also had some worrying threats to students about performance and punishment. So we are very concerned that the education and the mining messages in the Prime Minister's speech spell trouble for the environment, for the tourist dollar, for the future of this country as a home for biodiversity and for the integrity of the earth, but also for the education of our children. Mr. Speaker, the Green Party will be challenging these issues in the year to come. Kia ora koutou katoa.